Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Predaplant deck profile. So you guys have actually been requesting an update of this for a while now. I haven't updated it in a little bit, and I'm really excited to because this deck is really good under Master Rule 5, because this deck is so crazy, especially since Predaplant Orthoscorpio did not get hit on the list and is still at 3. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to become part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on this. But before we do, don't forget to check out that Patreon down in the description because we have some really cool rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card, getting your name in the description of every single video, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month that you are a patron. So, let's get straight on into this, guys. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Predaplant Orthoscorpio, which is kind of like the main starter of the entire deck. Basically what Orthoscorpio does is if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a monster from your hand to the grave to special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck, except another copy of itself, which is really good because you can special summon out your copy of Darling Cobra, or in this case, any of your other copies of your Predaplants directly from your deck, which is really good for Predaplants. Then we play 3 copies of Predaplant Sundew. Predaplant Sundew is something that I prefer as a 3 of. Some people just play this card as a 2 of. I really like this card as a 3 of because it has the ability that monsters with Predacounters that you use as fusion materials are treated as dark, and then during your opponent's or during your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 dark fusion monster from your extra deck using this card on the field, and monsters from the field, hand, and or monsters with Predacounters your opponent controls as fusion materials. This card can single-handedly board wipe your opponent with a card combo as simple as using this card plus a copy of Predaplast, giving all those monsters your opponent controls Predacounters, which is really cool to be able to do. And then we play 3 copies of the level 1 Predacounter or Predaplant monster. Basically what this card does is if when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can special summon this card from your hand, and after damage calculation, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster, which is really cool because if they do attack you, they have to give up the monster if they want to keep pursuing that attack. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can add a Predacounter or Predaplant monster from your deck to your hand. It says a Preda card, but it's usually a Predaplant monster or one of your Preda spells or traps. Then I play 2 copies of the Predaplant Spino. This card's really good because basically what this card does is when you normal summon it, you get to put a Predacounter on an opponent's monster. And then something that you have to keep in mind is all monsters that have Predacounters on them become level 1. So if you're playing against an opponent's deck that Synchro summons or XYZ summons or anything like that, this deck can really mess your opponent up because it can mess up all their XYZ plays or their Synchro plays or anything like that. I mean, flipping Predaplast on your opponent mid-combo with XYZs can really hurt them because you're just making it so they're not level 4s, 6s, 7s, whatever they are. Now they're level 1. This card also has the ability that if this card battles a monster, if this card battled a monster with equal or lower level, you can special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck, which is really cool as well, because getting that extra Predaplant on the field can really help you out with your combos, especially being able to special summon Darling Cobra. So if you don't automatically draw into the Orthoscorpio, you want to draw into a Spino, because you can put a Predacounter on an opponent's monster and then swing over it, special summon Darling Cobra, and then Darling Cobra lets you add a Polymerization or a Fusion spell directly from your deck, which is really good. That's why a lot of the times you see this played in a lot of decks. You see the Predaplant Orthoscorpio and the Predaplant Darling Cobra played in a lot of decks because it makes rank 3, or in a lot of cases, you can make this search a Polymerization or search a Fusion spell, and then you immediately get to overlay them both or link them away for a copy of, for instance, your Predaplant Link monster. Then we play a single copy of Flytrap. I really like a Flytrap at 1 because you can target a monster your opponent controls and you put a Predacounter on it. And then it also has the ability that at the start of the damage step, when this card battles an opponent monster with equal or lower level, you destroy that opponent's monster, increase this card's level by the original level of the destroyed monster, which can really help you get into your greedy Venom Fusion Dragon, because if you can get this card big enough, you can immediately go for that card with this card and a dark monster, which can really help out, or a Predaplant and a dark monster that's level 8 or higher. So if you attack into an opponent's monster that's a level 6 with this card, you can immediately go into that card, which can really help out. Then I play a single copy of Hydra, the Predaplant Hydra. You can special summon this card from your hand by tributing an opponent's monster, either on their field with a Predacounter on it, which is really cool because if you tribute the opponent's monster, it's kind of like a Kaiju for the built-in Kaiju that's searchable. And then you can manage a Predacounter monster or Predaplant monster from your graveyard, and then target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Or one face-up monster on field and loses 500 attack, which is kind of okay, but you're basically just using it to tribute your opponent's monsters. I play one copy of Predaplant Ogre. This card is a synchro monster. I did drop Trishula out of the extra deck. You can still put that card in if you want to go for Trishula. It just came up so rarely when I was playing it. It came up every so often, like maybe maybe twice in 10 games, maybe 1 in 5 games it would come up, but it was so infrequently that I kind of dropped the Trishula, so you don't have a synchro target in this deck for this card, but it's still pretty good because you can special summon this card by tributing an opponent's monster with a Predacounter on it, and if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can place a Predacounter on each face-up monster your opponent controls, and if you do, they all become level 1, which is really cool. And then I play one of the newer, I just call it Predaplant Pterodactyl, but it's pretty much a Pterodactyl. But basically what this card does is your opponent controls a monster with a Predacounter on it, you can special summon it from your hand. And if this card in owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one Dark or one Dark Dragon or Dark Plant in your graveyard and then special summon it, which is really cool to be able to do. And then for the last 3 monsters we play 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom because the entire deck is plant. So you want to be able to special summon out like a copy of Orthoscorpio immediately out of deck, which is really, really helpful. So that's it for our monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Call by the Grave. The 3 copies of Call by the Grave really help out in this deck because with the 3 copies of Call by the Grave, you're just able to deal with so many hand traps and you just don't have to deal with them. 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This deck was built for Super Polymerization at 3, so you're going to play Super Poly at 3. This card literally has a link monster in the deck that says, hey, search Super Poly, use its effect anytime you want. 1 copy of Predaprime Fusion. I really like this card at 1 because what this card does is if a Predaplant monster on the field is fusion summoned, if a Predaplant monster is on the field, you can fusion summon a Dark Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either player's field, including 2 Dark Fusion monsters you control. So you can make it really easy by fusion summoning with 2 monsters you control and a 3rd Dark monster that your opponent controls, and making the big new-ish with the Legendary Duelist 5, the big Hydra, like 3-headed, fusion monster. It's really good. 1 copy of Ultra Polymerization because it gives us our materials back on the field, which is really helpful. And for the last 2 fusion spells, we play 2 copies of Polymerization because it's so easy to get out in this deck. You really just need 2 of it. I mean, at this point, you're playing 7 Polymerizations, plus the Sundew is 3 more. So you're playing 6 basically fusion spells. So I played at this ratio. I really like the Ultra Polymerization at 1 in here because it's kind of searchable with a couple of different cards because it has Polymerization in the name, which is really nice. And putting those materials back on the field is really, really good because you can link them away and then go into something else. Then we play, for the Predaplant spells, we play a single copy of Predapruning, which is essentially Monster Reborn. It says, hey, equip this to a Predaplant monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is cool. 1 copy of Predaponics. Predaponics is neat because once per turn you can special summon a level 4 lower Predaplant monster from your hand or grave, but it has its effects negated. And then during your standby phase, you have to pay 800 life points or destroy it. I really like it because it's a good one-of because it just keeps reviving your Predaplant monsters. 2 copies of Predaplast. Predaplast lets you reveal any number of Predacards in your hand and then target that many cards on your opponent's side of the field that are monsters and place Predacounters on them. And then it makes them all level 1, which is really cool. And if a Predaplant monster would be destroyed by battle, you can banish the card from your graveyard instead. We play 3 copies of Predapractice. I love Predapractice at 3. Predapractice is basically the searcher of the deck in a way. It lets you special summon a Predaplant monster from your hand. Then you can add a Predacard from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Predapractice. And also for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusions, which is not that big of a deal because the primary, way that we're summoning in this deck is fusions, which is still really good. And you can do this at the end of the combo, and with the higher level monsters, like your copies of the Ogre, your high level other copy of the Pterodactyl card, the Ogre, and everything else like that, this card can help you get them out of your hands really easily. Then we play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. The Allure of Darkness just basically is good draw power to get into the Orthoscorpio to start the whole combo and deal with what we need to deal with. So that's it for the spells, guys. I do play 2 traps in the deck. I have been playtesting this, and I kind of like it, actually, which is Predaplanting. To begin with, I did not like this card. I really didn't. I loved the artwork, but I didn't like the card. But it kind of grew on me, and I started playtesting. I was like, man, I see a lot of people playing this. I'm going to test it. So I'm testing it too, and I'm really liking it. So basically what this card does is it lets you send a Predaplant monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then you place a Predacounter on each face-up monster on the field. And if you do, any of those monsters that are level 2 become level 1, as long as this card has, as long as they have Predacounters on them. And if a fusion summon, if you're going to fusion summon a dark monster while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target a card on the field and destroy it. So if you're going to summon Starving Venom Fusion Dragon and your opponent has a problematic card, you can banish this and then pop something, which is really, really cool. And I really love that effect, to just be able to pop something. And it actually, I love the name of it because it's Predaplanting. So you have to plan it out and banish this card at the right time. So I really love the artwork. That was the main reason I wanted to playtest it, because I was like, man, that's such a cool looking card. And then I playtested it and I really liked it. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. Especially, only play this, by the way, if you're mainly playing the deck like I'm playing it, where you're focusing on the Predacounters. There is some builds with this deck where you're not playing so much towards the Predacounters, but I really like playing towards the Predacounters. So, first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. I know you usually don't see that, but the 2 copies of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon really help out in here because it's just such an OTK maker. As you can tell, it's basically built around summoning Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. 1 copy of the upgraded version of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, which is Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. This card's pretty easy to go into. It's a fun card to play in the deck because it lets you be able to change a monster's on the field's attack to 0, which is really cool. And if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, then you can banish a level 8 or higher dark monster in your graveyard and special summon it. 2 copies of Chimera Rafflesia. Chimera Rafflesia is the primary one that you go for first, because it's really good to be able to just put it on the field and target a card with less level than this card, and then banish it. And then when it declares an attack on an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect until the end phase of the turn. It loses 1,000 attack, like the opponent's monster loses 1,000 attack. So it's essentially like they're getting smacked with a 3,500 beat stick, which is kind of nice. 1 copy of Dragostapelia. Dragostapelia is pretty good. It's kind of rare to summon, but once per turn you can target a monster your opponent controls and then place a Predacounter on it. And then it also has the ability that it gives the Predacounters a really cool effect that negate the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that have Predacounters on them. That makes this card really good to summon because it can negate those effects of the monsters that have Predacounters. I usually summon this, but it's hard to get out because you have to use a fusion monster. It's really fun if you're going against a fusion deck with Super Poly. 2 copies of the Predaplant, 3-headed Predaplant monster. That's a fusion monster. It takes 3. The reason I played this card at 3, or 2, I mean, is because it's really easy to get out with Super Poly. If your opponent has monsters on the field, and it's really easy to get out with Predaprime Fusion, if you know your opponent's going to play a Dark Monster, and you have the Predaprime Fusion set, like for some reason your opponent plays Boral Sword against you, then you can immediately fusion summon away the Boral Sword with the Predaprime Fusion and 2 of your monsters on the field and summon this, and then your opponent's like, oh, I just put 4 monsters in that for nothing. Or more if they use monsters from their extra deck to summon it. 1 copy of Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon really helps out for the rare occasions that you don't have a dark monster on the field. 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. Really easy to do if your opponent has like 2 monsters that are different attributes. If you're playing against a deck that's like anything that has attributes that are the same attribute but different types, it's a really good card. 1 copy of Boral Sword. Boral Sword comes in handy because it helps you OTK. Nightmare Unicorn helps out because it balances stuff. Phoenix because it pops spells and traps. Aromaseraphy, Jasmine. Jasmine helps out as well because basically what she does is she helps with plant monsters. Cross Sheep because it's a fusion deck and this card comes in super handy. And 1 copy of Verte Anaconda because it is a Predaplant monster and it helps you get directly into that Super Poly or the fusion spell that you need. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. And check out that Patreon because we have some awesome rewards for you guys out there on the Patreon. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Definitely tell me what you guys want to see in the next coming videos. And if you guys want to guarantee that deck profile for you of your choice, definitely check out the Patreon because we have some really cool rewards for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.